If you've ever fished on the reef, you've probably encountered tonight's species. Undoubtedly, it's one of the most popular fish on the menu. The beautiful 14-karat gold tail is something you'll never forget. Tonight we're talking yellowtail here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello, Floridians, and welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Tonight we have an exciting show for you. The FWC is here, and Chef Michelle Bernstein is cooking up a storm for us. Plus, we have a live studio audience for our last show of the season, right, Rick?
What?
So bittersweet.
No more Dave?
No more Dave.
No more live audience?
No more live audience.
No more Bree?
No more Bree! All right, let's say hi to Dave Farrell. Dave, what do you think about our last show of the season?
As long as he stops acting, I'll be all right. I'm ready. I'm
You're
ready
ready.
for it. I'm not ready for the last show, though. I think we need to turn this into a hunting show for the wintertime.
Oh,
That's a
thank
great
you, Dave.
idea. It's
I
good
think it's
ideas.
12
Stirring
months.
the pot.
Well,
Just
during
stirring
the
pot.
commercial break, I'll let you talk to the FWC people that
There
are
we
sitting
go.
to your right.
Well,
There we go.
there we go. All right, let's give it up for our first captain, Jimbo Thomas, in the Casa Vieja Southeast region, as he tells us what the weekend is bringing. Hey, Jimbo.
Hey, Bree. Hey, Rick. Hey, Dave. Well, yeah, we got plenty of yellowtail here in the southeast region. And typically, the further south you get, the better the reef gets, and therefore the fishing gets a little better. And right now is a pretty good time to target those yellowtails, especially in those in the evenings. And they bite really good at night, and you can get out there and not sweat to death, beat the heat out there. Now, the shallow reefs and the patches, they do hold lots of yellowtails, but most of those are going to be on the small side. So we like to keep to the deeper water where the fish average from about 1 pound on up to flags of 4 pounds or more. You want to look for hard bottom and 40 to 80 feet of water and watch that depth machine for any signs of fish, and then anchor up and start chumming. Now, if you want to get really serious, mix some sand and oats with that chum, and you can make some delicious, tasty little chum balls there. And you can even sweeten it up by adding some glass minnows or silver sides. And the key to catching yellowtails is a lot of chum, so the more chum, the better. Now, I like to use light spinning outfit with 12 to 15 pound tests and a 2-0 hook, and tie that hook straight to the main line. And if you're using some high vis line, a light fluorocarbon leader or clear mono leader will work. Now, bonita, squid, and ballyhoo, those are great baits. You want to cut them into small strips and drip them back into the chum. And then if the fish are staying deep, roll your bait into one of those tasty chum balls, and the weight of that sand will sink the bait down. Also, a small jig baited with one of those strips, drift it back into the chum. That's a great way to get those fish biting if they're a little boat shy and staying back. Now, it might take some time, but occasionally those fish, they get chum right up to the surface, and they'll bite right at the transom of the boat. Now, since the hurricane, the bottom fishing has been excellent, which isn't uncommon after a big storm passes. The grouper and mutton snapper, they've been biting in anywhere from 120 to 200 feet of water. The groupers have been gags, blacks, and reds, and they've been eating both live and cut baits fished around natural and artificial reefs. And then the mutton snappers have been best using small live baits, cut sardines, or cut mullet, and drift them over reef and ledge bottom in the 120 to 200 foot range. Got a photo here. This is a couple nice black grouper and a gag grouper up to 20 pounds that we caught off Key Biscayne earlier in the week. So there are some nice groupers out there.
Nice.
Now, moving inshore, we've had quite a bit of bait starting to move south along the beaches, and some of those schools of finger mullet, and then there's been regular-sized mullet and pilchers, and they've made it into the inlets and bays, and following those schools of bait have been mostly snook and tarpon, but there's also been big jack crevalles, barracudas, and sharks mixed in. Once those bait fish make it into the bays, there's also been trout and mangrove snapper feeding on them. Now, look for bait on the surface or any bird activity, and you want a cast net or sabiki, a well full of those baits. Now, sabiki won't work on the mullet, so you'll have to have a cast net to get the mullet. Work those live baits on the outside edges of the bait schools. Use a 3/0 to 6/0 circle hook, depending on the size of the bait, or you can cast 3 to 6 inch jerk baits or artificial swimming plugs and surface lures in black and silver or green and silver, and you want to try and match the lure to the size of the bait that you have in the area. And we've seen some bait here in the south end, but most of it's been more towards the north end of the region. This annual bait migration should last a few more weeks, and it usually peaks around Columbus Day. And then staying inshore, the bonefish and permit fishing on the flats of South Biscayne Bay has been excellent since the water cleared up. Talked to our good friend Captain Joe Gonzalez. He said it took around 10 days for the water to clear. Since then, he's been finding fish from Key Biscayne, South Angelfish Creek, on both the inside and outside flats. There's been some extreme high tides lately. I think we got a new moon or something, so the tides have been extreme. So on those high tides, it's hard to see the fish, so check your tide chart. Get on the flats on the lower stages of the tide and look for cruising, mudding, and tailing fish, preferably in the early morning. You want to cast small live blue crabs and shrimp, or pink and brown skimmer jigs and crab pattern flies to those bonefish and permit.
Thank you so much, Jimbo. Great reporting this year from the Casa Vieja southeast region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots inshore. Look for the schools of mullet and fish the outskirts of the schools for snook and big tarpon. And then offshore, fish natural and artificial reef bottoms with live or cut bait in 120 to 250 feet for groupers and snappers.
Snappers. All right, let's head on up the creek a bit to the east region with Captain Mike Holliday, where the yellowtails prefer the clean water, so you're gonna want to head a little south. Hey, Mike.
That's the truth, Bree. You know, we've got great yellowtail snapper fishing in my region, particularly off Palm Beach and southern Martin County. That's where that water's cleaner, and then where the fish don't get as crowded out by some of the other snapper species. You'll find yellowtails in anywhere from 20 to 120 feet of water. And off Palm Beach County, the patch reefs in 55 to 70 feet of water, they hold a lot of yellowtails, as does the reef line in 75 to 85 feet of water, just north and south of Jupiter Inlet. And then don't overlook the shallow stuff like the reef off Peck's Lake, the sand pile off Stewart. That's where the fish will come in to feed on the juvenile sardines that are pushing into that shallow water this time of the year. The real key to catching yellowtails is the chum form. Jimbo already talked about that. Then float a hook bait back into your chum line. And, you know, since most of the yellowtails are in that 1 to 2 pound range, you can fish them on 10 to 12 pound monofilament and 1/16 ounce jig head. Just peg a chunk of bonita, a pilchard, a juvenile sardine, a couple glass minnows or a piece of squid to the hook, and then just float it back into the chum line naturally. If you're in deeper water, you can target them with that 3-hook chicken rig and a strip of squid on that, or a strip of bonita. Average yellowtail in my region is going to be 1 to 2 pounds, but fish to 4 pounds are pretty common. And then as long as we're talking about snapper, this is when the mutton snapper push close to shore to feed on the migrating finger mullet and also the juvenile bait fish that are in along the beaches. So you'll find a lot of these smaller fish in that 3 to 8 pound range on the patch reefs in 12 to 30 feet of water, really from Boynton Beach all the way up to Vero Beach. There will also be a good mutton bite on the deeper reefs in 75 to 90 feet of water off Hope Sound. That'll be bigger fish. Since their finger mullet are one of their favorite foods, you can, just cast net a live well full of them before you leave the inlet and get out on those patch reefs and use your trolling motor to pull them along and along the reefs in places like Peck's Lake, the Bathtub, South and North Beaches and Fort Pierce, and then the reef along Ryomar and Vero Beach. And around the inlets, you can also put a finger mullet or a Spanish sardine on the bottom, throw it out into the sand during the slack tides and do pretty well in the muttons. So the average mutton's going to be like 3 to 10 pounds, but fish to 20 pounds will be caught this time of the year. I got a photo there. That's Mac Johnson with a nice mutton snapper. He caught that along the Patch Reef up in Vero Beach, and he was fishing with his father, Charlie Johnson. They were fishing Spanish sardine.
All right, let's go inshore, Hollywood.
Well, the snook bite's finally getting back to normal after the storms. The key to finding the fish is to find the mullet schools. The snook travel with the mullet this time of the year, moving from the beaches into the inlets, then to the shorelines as they work their way up the rivers for the winter months. And so my standard tactic, for snook fishing this time of the year is to run until I see mullet getting blown up, then stop and fish that school. There'll also be a lot of fish on the seawalls and bridges, particularly those close to the inlets like North Bridge in Fort Pierce, the 25-cent bridge in Stewart, the A1A bridge in Jupiter, and the Blue Heron bridge in Riviera Beach. That's mostly a nighttime bite throwing swimming plugs. If you find snook locked in on the mullet, you can throw top water plugs pretty much all day long. particularly if they're around seawalls and docks or up on the shorelines. I like swimming plugs on the bridges at night, but a dye dapper will work just about as well in any of the mullet colors. Live mullet are always a good choice. Pick the larger the finger mullet and the smaller or the mature mullet. Excuse me. Really, what you're looking for is those baits that are 6 to 10 inches that cast really well and represent a good meal to fish of any size. The average snook this time of year is going to be 8 to 18 pounds. I got a photo there. That's Charlie DeBay with one of a dozen snook he and his father Chip DeBay caught. They were fishing the St. Lucie Inlet on the outgoing tide. The other thing we got going, this is the time of year when the redfish school up on the flats and in the inlets in my region are getting ready to spawn. Right now, the Fort Pierce Inlet has a strong showing of redfish, and there's a few being caught in the St. Lucie Inlet, but the majority of fish will be in shallow water. This is when you get those big schools of fish that hump the water as they move, making them really easy to spot. We typically don't have that in my region except when they're spawning. The Moorings Flat in Vero Beach, the old Inlet Flat, the Northbridge Flat, and the Sailfish Point Flat, all those spots are going to hold schooling reds over the next month or so, depending on how long it takes before the mullet disappear. In the inlets, look for the fish tight to the rocks and blowing up mullet on the outgoing tide. On the flats, those fish are constantly on the move, and usually they're around the mullet schools, sometimes even mixing in with the mullet schools. Target them with topwater plugs or soft plastics like a saltwater assassin, 4-inch sea shad in that copper juice or Houdini or Papa Smurf color, or you can flip a finger mullet their way. They're always going to pound on that, live or dead. If you hook a fish, look for others that are trailing it. Cast to those fish and it'll be doubled up pretty quickly. Average redfish in the region is going to be 24 to 32 inches.
Thank you so much, Hollywood. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the East Region hotspots. From the East Region inshore, redfish, snook, flounder, and tarpon in Fort Pierce Inlet using swimming plugs, flare hawk jigs, and live mullet. And then offshore, dolphins, sailfish, blackfin tunas in 200 to 400 feet of water off of Juneau Pier. Use a live pilchard, sardines, or finger mullets. Now, guys, I want to welcome Amber and Barron from the FWC. And Barron, we just had a hurricane go through, so why don't you tell us what's going on within the side of the state?
Sure, Rick. I think it's important to remember that our sport fish and their habitats have evolved with disruptions like hurricanes. So it's not uncommon to think there might be minor damage, but the systems are going to recover on their own. And the FWC is always on the lookout for projects where we can help facilitate that, speed that process along. And what we're hearing from anglers, despite some minor damage and high waters, they're still catching fish.
Well, that's a good report. Something always positive comes out of a tropical storm for whatever reason. Amber, we've got some crappie studies going on. Why don't you enlighten our viewers about what that is?
Yes, well, the FWC is in the process of creating a black crappie management plan to maintain and enhance our black crappie fisheries to benefit current and future anglers. But we would dream of creating that plan without consulting with our anglers. So we're here today to ask all of our spec fishermen to help us out by providing their opinion in the form of a survey. So if you consider yourself to be a Florida spec fisherman, whether you're a resident or a non-resident, please do email Ryan Ham at myfwc.com to receive a survey and help us complete our management plan.
That sounds good. Now, you were here last year. We had just put in some new rules in regards to bass. So why don't we update everybody as to what's happening with that?
Yes, the new bass regulations were introduced in July of 2016 in an effort to streamline the rules and better protect for Florida's larger trophy-sized bass.
Right.
So what this means is that anglers can now keep 5 largemouth bass, but only one can measure 16 inches or longer. So it gives anglers the option of keeping 5 largemouth bass, all measuring less than 16 inches, or 4 under 16 with one measuring 16 inches or longer. And for 4 black bass species in the Panhandle, our spotted shoal, Swanee, and Choctaw bass, the regulations are the same as they are for the largemouth bass, with an additional minimum 12-inch length limit. But there are no minimum length limits anywhere in the state for the largemouth bass.
Well, I'm impressed at how well you know all that, because I can tell you, and I'm sure there's a lot of the same people feel the same, it's hard to keep up with all the rules and regulations. They change constantly. If people have a question about that, where can they go to have any of these things answered?
They should go to myfwc.com/fishing.
Well, thank you for coming. Barron, good to see you again. Amber, thank you so much. And Bree, please can we go to another region?
Yes, we can, Amber. That was pretty impressive. All right, sit tight, everyone. The Keys region is on our minds next. Plus, Chef Michelle Bernstein is here, and she's cooking up some delicious yellowtail for us. And Dave at the CCA workbench.
She's not the only one cooking.
Oh,
Cooking up
shoot.
some chum, too. Look
Cooking
at
up
that.
some
Isn't
chum
that delicious?
over here. Michelle, you've got some competition.
It's going to be a food fight in here in a minute. Come here, Bree.
Michelle's looks better, let me just say. All right, we'll be back
It's a little gooey.
with Cooking Wars.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Daiquiri Deck, Sarasota's favorite place to meet. Q-Max, maximum saltwater protection. And Sea Sucker, get pumped.
Hi guys, it's great to be here.
In the desert,
At the mall,
on the mountain,
at school,
at the beach.
in the Big Easy.
Yeah.
Today I want to show you guys the next gen Chevy Equinox. What do you think?
That's pretty.
Pretty sexy.
It's all-wheel drive. Look at that. It looks aggressive.
But not overbearing. It's not too big, not too small.
Looks like it could go off-roading.
But at the same time, it looks like a car you could take to a nice event.
You can dress it up or dress it down.
Seems like the perfect car for anybody.
I would take it anywhere.
I want one.
I love it.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Chevy stepped their game up.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower four-stroke, the all-new Yamaha F25, the new standard in 25 horsepower portable four-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower four-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's VTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide and seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench.
Yes, sir.
And Dave, Yellowtails, you know, you and I and Randy were together doing a Sportsman's Adventure episode.
I'm just glad that we
a few
didn't do
weeks
this
ago.
after Randy's thing, because Randy would be able to tell us all about it, and I'd be standing here telling you guys the same thing again, which I'm probably going to be doing a little bit already because of Jimbo and those fellas who know all about this. But yeah, we went with Randy the other day, and I've been with him several times, and he does the same thing every time. Yellowtail snappers are great in Florida because we get a bunch of them, you know, where they are, and you know they range from Brazil all the way to Massachusetts, believe it or not. They've actually caught them up that far. Wow. So if the Gulf Stream, you know, get to a place, actually the biggest ones ever caught was in Bermuda, 11-pounder, you know, a whale of a yellowtail. And you know the Florida record's 8 pounds. 8 pounds is 9 ounces, almost 10 pounds. So that's a big yellowtail. And you know the thing about yellowtails is they're commercially harvested, and so they can be a little wary every once in a while when you get up on these patch reefs and stuff. Sometimes the key that Randy always told us is patience.
Patience.
When you first get to that wreck or reef, you want to anchor up and you want to put your chum bag out, you know, a frozen block of chum, and then you want to have some oats, some rolled oats soaked in water, you know, so that you can, you know, you don't want them to be real soupy. You want them to be about like this, you know,
right.
So you can make a ball with them and throw them out there. You buy a 50-pound bag of oats for $20. So it should be enough to last you long. Oh, that's delicious. It'll make it last a long time.
Now, is this the same kind of oats like we get in the store?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Horse eats it.
It
you
tastes
can
the
eat
same.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just an oat. You can put some sugar and whatever in there, but I wouldn't do that.
Brown
anyway,
sugar?
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing is when we get on there, is you start throwing out that the oats and you let your chum sit out there and let everything sit for a good 15 or 20 minutes before you start fishing. And then when you see that big golden ball come up out there, then you start fishing. And the thing to do is to use 1 or 2 lines at first. You know, you don't want to go back there, as we saw during that trip. You know, if you start catching them, they'll get wary and disappear. Right. And the first thing you need to do is when they start disappearing, is throw a little bit more chum out and get the fishing lines out of the water. Right. Because just the presence of 1 line, which we found out, you know, you put 1 line back out there, sometimes they won't come back. Right. You have to have all the lines out of the water, which I thought was crazy until I saw it.
Right.
You know, I thought, how could they tell that little little thing is out there? But they certainly do, and they would disappear on us, you know, out of nowhere after we'd catch a few of them.
So a variety of different hook sizes important, Dave?
Right. You know, you can use a little 1/8 ounce. You saw some of the video that we had, a little 1/8 ounce jig or a 1/16 ounce jig head. What I would do is I would have one guy on one side with a plain hook and one guy on the other side with a little weighted hook, and then see who's getting more bites. Right. And whoever's getting more bites, then you just switch over to doing that. The good little bait to put on there is little chunks of bonita, strips of ballyhoo, a peeled shrimp is really good. Anytime you put a little shrimp on there, they're going to love that.
Now, braided line?
Sure, you can use braided line, but you want to have a leader.
Long
leader. They have very good eyesight, and if the water's really clean, they can see that hook and everything. So what you want to do is you want to use something 12-pound or under, fluorocarbon if you're going to be in the daytime. Nighttime, you don't have to worry about it as much, and they do bite really good at night too, which a lot of people don't know. You can catch a lot of them at night. But you'd be surprised how spooky they are. And you know, what you'll do is you'll just free line that back. The best thing to do is try to time it with your chum throw. You know, when you throw that chum out there, throw your bait inside it. Yeah, throw the bait with it and let it float back with it. Just keep your bail in free spool and just let it flow, free line it. And then when it starts to accelerate, just click it over and start to wind. There's no reason to be jerking. I tell you what, that's a good rule of thumb for any kind of fishing that you're doing. Instead of jerking on it, just flip the bail over and start to wind, and you'll probably end up pulling drag.
That's great advice. Great advice.
Yeah, well, there you go. I guess we're done.
That handshake is the proverbial, we're done.
All right, go catch you some yellowtail because they're really good to eat.
Clue to Dave,
and
right,
handshake.
Bree?
Thanks, Dave. Last show of the season. They'll forget it by next year. Don't worry.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, Captain Randy Tao is here to give us an update on the Keys. So, Randy, do what you do best.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, I got to change my report now because Dave pretty much said everything I was going to talk about yellowtailing, and we did have a great time doing a yellowtail show down in the Keys. And, you know, right now, post Irma, everybody's starting to get back on the water, and the reef fishing is really good and the yellowtailing. I went yesterday, and sure enough, I anchored in about 80 feet of water. I had some current, which was good. You know, when you have a light wind, sometimes you don't have a lot of current. But we did have some current. The yellowtails came up very quickly, and we got them up on the surface, and we caught our limit fairly quick. Now, sometimes it's not like that. You got to be patient, and you got to wait. Sometimes you got to chum. And you want to understand your chumming process, it really is not about volume, about putting tons and tons of chum in the water. It's more about keeping it consistent and keeping it going. And when you throw those oats over, the idea is to get the fish from the bottom to come up to near surface or halfway eating the oats so they get up closer to the boat. So the combination of chum and oats have a certain effect on these fish to get them up from the bottom, and that's what you do. And you want to be patient. And there's one more thing you want to keep in mind. Sometimes you go to the reef and there's no current and the wind's light and there's not much movement. If you have live bait, like live pilchards, you can throw out the pilchards just like you would if you were chumming, and these yellowtails will come up to the surface. They'll come right to the boat. And you can catch some really nice yellowtails right now, especially because we have plenty of pilchards around, and some of the areas don't have any current, and the guys are just letting the boat drift, throwing out these pilchards and catching some nice big yellowtails. Captain Mike Towdy on his boat, the Jenny Lynn at a Marathon, he's very good at doing this, and he's chomping at the bit to go fishing and catch some more big yellowtails like this picture I got from him.
That's a nice big yellowtail there, bud. Good job. Way to go, Mike. Hey, what else you got for me offshore this week, bud?
You know, blackfin tunas. The tuna and dolphin are happening. The blackfins, especially right now, late September, October is a great month. Like I said, the pilchards have showed up after the storm, and there's plenty of bait around in the mornings. You want to get it early, and guys are going out to the humps with a well full of pilchards. Now, there's two trains of thought here. One, you can troll with the small feathers, and you can catch school-sized tunas, which is pretty easy. You don't have to do a lot to catch them. Just troll around, fish them way back, and they might be 2 to 5 pounds. And if you have live bait, get up ahead of the hump, throw out a bunch of bait, and then drift over it with 3 or 4 lines with hooks in them, and you're going to catch some of these 20, 30-pound tunas. Captain Brian Cohn does this so well over and over again. He's been catching some really nice big tunas with live bait on the offshore humps right now.
All right, you got a picture of Brian there, bud?
That's James. Actually, that's James with a big tuna he caught with Brian.
Wow, that is a big one. All right, let's go inshore then.
There's some bonefish around. There hasn't been a lot in the backcountry, but the bone fishing close to the islands, and this is, the Keys Oceanside, the Keys backcountry, maybe a mile from the bridges in the bay, has been pretty consistent, especially on the incoming tide. Now, remember, the incoming tide on the ocean is not the same as the bay side. It might be 2 hours difference. So understand that tide, because it is critical when to be on top of the flat and when to find these fish. But they've been pretty plentiful. I was talking to Captain Richard Black. He bone fishes a lot, and he's telling me that on the higher tides he's finding them mudding, and on the lower part of the tides they're tailing good numbers of fish, some nice big schools. And I've got a picture that he sent me of his wife, Brooke, her friend Amy Bennett, with 3 they caught on artificials.
All right, what else you got for me, bub?
Tarpon. The tarpon have showed up for some reason. The tarpon are everywhere. They're around the bridges. They're around the islands in the backcountry. They're not real giant tarpon. They're 10 to 30 pounds, maybe a 50-pounder mixed in. But there's certainly a lot of them right now, and guys are catching them on artificial and whatever bait you can get. Bait's kind of tough right now, but guys are throwing flies. They're catching a few pinfish, and in the backcountry, the pilchards are better around town, and the guys are catching them around the bridges. But the tarpon fishing for the last few days for the guys that are fishing have been very good. Captain Jared Roskob, he's not afraid to go find these things wherever they may be, and he sent me a picture of this one they caught on fly a couple days ago.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, what a big stud fish.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Randy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Florida Keys region. Randy says that this weekend we should go inshore tarpon, look for them around the bridges for the schools of bait, and then try the mangrove shorelines out front of Flamingo, and then offshore blackfin tunas. Look on the top of the offshore humps, and then troll dark feathers way back. Look for the large flocks of birds as you go offshore. Now, Bree, you know that October 1st, which is this coming Sunday,
Yes,
is going to be the official day of the reopening of the Florida Keys. Now, the one thing that we need to make sure that we understand that there's certain parts of the Keys that have been more affected than others, but the key is that Key West now is back open. All the great restaurants down there on Duval Street, Sloppy Joe's, and all the great haunts that we love so much, they're ready to take our business, and we've got to get back down there and support them.
Yep.
And the other thing that's really important is that whether you live in Key Largo or you live in Isla Mirada, a lot of your captains, I had a doctor just this week say to me, hey man, I don't think I'm going to be going to the Keys. I go, when's your trip? And he goes, June. So because of media, a lot of people think that it's going to be closed for years. And guess what? We're opening back the Keys officially on Sunday. And if you want to do something to help, guys, call your favorite fishing guide and book a trip with him. It's going to start the economy back and kickstart ice, fuel, everything.
Exactly. We're up and ready to run. Well, speaking of the Keys, Rick, last week the Fit for Family and Friends, along with some help and donations from our sponsors, went down to the Lower Keys to assist some of the residents with cleanup. There's progress being made every day, and the fishing will still thrive, right, Rick?
Absolutely, Bree. We went down into Big Pine in the Lower Keys where we're ground zero, Irma. And I was surprised. I mean, there is certain areas that are really hard hit. But then there's other areas that, you know, it's not quite as bad, but people need help, and we can't, just because we're not reporting it or the Keys officially is getting back open, we need to help them. We need to organize small groups. We were able to touch 12 different homes. We helped them clean out their backyards. We helped them clean out refrigerators and freezers that have been closed up since the electricity went off. And you know, people somewhat are in shock and they need help. And it's just such a great gift, so rewarding to feel that when you help somebody.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Awesome.
Everyone needs a little help sometimes.
Absolutely.
All right, look ahead, mates, because the Northeast and Central West regions are coming up, and we're learning a thing or two from Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef from Miami. Trust us, you won't want to miss these sizzling secrets. We'll be right back.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. The American Fishing Tackle Company, precision tackle and performance clothing since 1958. Best parts, best prices, Bennett Auto Supply. Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
You each drive a Ford pickup, right?
Yes, sir. I have a Ford F-150. I've always been a Ford guy.
I have a real treat for you today.
Awesome.
I'm going to show you a next generation pickup.
Let's do this.
This new truck now has a corner step built right into the bumper.
Super cool.
The bed is made of high-strength steel, which is less susceptible to punctures than aluminum.
Aluminum is great for a lot of things, but maybe not the bed of a truck.
And best of all, this new truck is actually
Oh, my.
the current Chevy Silverado.
I'm speechless. This puts my poor truck to shame. I tell you, I might be a Chevy guy now. Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. And as you can see, I have the lovely Michelle Bernstein, celebrity chef. You know, Michelle, I've been a fan of your work forever.
Nah.
I really have. But I think I'm going to nickname you because for the last few minutes, I've had to hear it. So I'm going to call you Miss Sizzle. Because it was sizzling and we were making. So what are we making?
I feel bad for the poor guys behind me because I don't think they heard a darn thing that's been happening here. They've been hearing me sizzle the whole time.
So tonight's species is Yellowtail.
The best.
Tell me what I need to know.
You gave me the gift of Yellowtail today because to me as a chef and also just as a home cook too, there is no more versatile fish out there. And I wanted to show the versatility to all y'all out there. I caught on your southern accent because this one is just simply sauteed in extra virgin oil, finished with its slightest touch of butter and lemon. If you want to try it, it's literally
What do you mean if I wanna?
Okay, fine. Parsley, lemon, that's it. That's couscous salad. Don't eat that. Eat the fish. Or you can eat that too. It's healthy.
Don't worry, I'm used to women telling me what to do all the time.
Trust me, I know your wife. I get it. And then I wanted to show you a poached fish. A lot of people only poach salmon, which I never quite understood because snapper is the most beautiful fish to poach. I left the skin on and I scored into it a little bit so that it didn't curl up. And I just poached it with a little ginger, some soybeans on there for health, a little cilantro.
All right, I need to inform this dish over here that I'm going to be cheating on it in
Heard
about
that.
2 seconds.
And then soy sauce finishes it. But I
Soy
poached
sauce.
it in a little chicken broth. I mean, there's nothing to it. And it's like butter, right? It melts in your mouth. It's a 4 to 5 minute cook. I mean, y'all should be making this all the time. It's so good. And then this one, I first sauteed it, which basically means to sear it on the skin side.
Right.
I flipped it over. I threw a little beer that this gentleman behind me is drinking, a little bit of broth, and then tomatoes, onions, and garlic, and chilies. And that is it. And so you have this beautiful dish. So you have 3 cooks. You have a saute, a poach, and a braise. This is called braised when you start by searing and finish by making it all juicy and wet with something good. So you see all that? You have all those onions and garlic all
Nice.
over it.
Yes.
And it's so simple and so lovely.
Please, though, you must go with me.
Oh, I
on
never
this.
eat my own food. Oh,
But
yeah. Okay, I will.
You'll have to make an exception
Okay,
for me.
a little sea salt right on the top.
Okay, so Michelle, let me ask you, what is the most common mistake that people make when cooking fish?
Overcooking it. So it's better to undercook than to overcook. So undercook your fish a little bit, and if it needs more, throw it back in the oven. But if you start out by overcooking, you can't go backwards in time, right? Once I get old, I'm old.
Right.
I can't become young again, no matter what I do. So that's just the same rules with fish. Just undercook it the slightest bit, because as it comes out of your oven or out of your pan, it's going to keep on cooking. Everything does. It's still hot. So you have a good 2 minutes to figure out if your fish is done or not.
Mm-hmm.
Can I show you the best way to figure out if your fish is done?
Sure, please, by all
hold on.
means.
Oh, pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me show you something.
Tell me.
Take a paring knife.
Yes.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Stick in the fish
Right,
as soon as it comes out of the pan or the oven.
right.
Pull it out, put it on your most delicate part of your body. So it's either here, or chefs actually go right here, because nothing hot usually touches us right here. So make sure the blade isn't out.
Right.
Or towards your face, and you go like this. If it's hot, it'll stick to the metal. You'll feel it on your skin. You'll know that it's hot all the way through. If fish is hot all the way through, it's done.
Right.
So you're finished. Snapper fillet only takes 6 to 8 minutes. It doesn't take more than that. On your grill, in your saute pan, in an oven. That's all it takes.
Awesome.
Okay.
You know what? You've made me so much smarter. Thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. And
This show is awesome.
I want to show her a trick. Can somebody bring me a fishing rod? Bree, while you take us to another region, I want to show Michelle how to get a backlash out during a
Tricks for
commercial.
tricks.
Can't wait.
Trading tricks over here.
Cool.
All right, well, the Startron Central West region has a tough act to follow after all those mouth-watering tips, but if anyone can do it, I know Captain Jeff Page can. How's the fishing, Page?
How's it feel to be married?
Oh, it feels so married-y. I love
boy. You know, there's a lot of heartbroken men out there.
All right, well, they also want to know about
Anyway,
fishing, so.
Yellowtail, snapper, Bree. You know, in our Startron Central West region, it's not known for being a yellowtail spot, but we have a pretty good yellowtail fishery, and it goes on from the spring through the late fall. I just talked to Captain Chris Seeger of Tightline Charters out of Marina Jack, and he says right now, since the hurricane, some of the best yellowtail fishing he's seen all season. What he's doing, Bree, is he's getting out in 100 to 120 feet of water, and he's chumming lightly, and he's using 12 to 16-pound test chicken rigs with a small jig head baited up with a squid chunk or a sardine chunk. I've got a yellowfin photo tonight that Captain Chris gave me of a good client of his, Larry Newman, and his son with a big yellowtail they got this week.
Okay, what else you got for me, Paige?
Red grouper. Red groupers have moved in a little bit over hard bottom areas from Sarasota north to St. Petersburg, and they're pretty much freaking that 80 to 100-foot depth range that Chris was talking about the yellowtails are in. And live pinfish as well as frozen sardines are going to get the job done. Don't spend too much time in one area. If you pick up a couple fish, go to another hard bottom area you've got marked on your machine. You're going to be able to get your limit. Got a red grouper photo tonight with a happy client with Captain Randy Powell out of Venice. Moving inshore. Redfish. We got a redfish tournament this weekend. Sounds like a broken record, but it continues to improve throughout this whole Central West region.
As we approach the month of Red October, look for the fish holding on outer bars off Burnt Store to Pirate Harbor, along with Turtle Bay bars and Bull Bay bars. As you work your way north, look for them on the Long Bar area in Sarasota and the bars off the Manatee River, off Emerson Point and Rattlesnake Key, as well as Joe's Island and Mullet Key Shoal. Live, free line, or corked pilchards or pinfish are a great bait, but don't be afraid to throw a 1/4 ounce gold spoon or a soft plastic like the Saltwater Assassin Golden Brim Sea Shad on a 1/4 ounce chartreuse jig head. Look for the reds holding on top of the bars at the high tide and out off the edges as the tide falls in the afternoon. I've got a redfish photo tonight of longtime clients, British Mike and Lynn Danes, with a couple nice redfish they got with me yesterday.
Nice.
Final species of the season. One more time with that snook fishing, Rick. It's been the mainstay throughout the whole season this year. It's always come through. Whenever I'm in a bind, I can go snook fishing. And as far as it goes right now, lots of good oversized fish as well as slot fish holding along the beaches throughout the entire region and in all the inlets from Stump Pass, Gasparilla Pass, north to Big Pass and New Pass. Free line live pilchards, and if you want to really hook the big ones, a little tip my buddy Billy Alstrom gave me, use a big free line grunt. As we roll into October, look for the fish to push in to the grass flats near your inlets and creeks like Whiddens Creek, Bowley's Creek to the north, and Manatee River. And then you can throw some good topwater plugs like bone chartreuse, skitterwalks, and look for the fish up towards Cockroach Bay, south to Port Manatee, too. It's going to be a great fall for snook fishing and a great wintertime in the Startron Central West region. Got a photo tonight of a happy client with a nice snook she caught with Captain Mac Davey of Inshore Attic Charters out of Sarasota. And I just want to give a big tip of the hat to all our sponsors and all the production crew at the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
All right, thank you so much, Paige. You did a great job this year, and I'll see you this weekend for the Redfish Tournament. All right, bud, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Daiquiri Deck hotspots from the Central West region. Inshore speckled trout, lots of trout holding on the grass flats between Emerson Point and Rattlesnake Key. The fish, the incoming tide used soft plastics like Saltwater Assassin's Mama's 14-karat sea shad, and then offshore amberjacks, nice AJs holding on the wrecks and ledges in 80 to 100 feet of water off of Venice.
All right, as always, we get to see Tommy Derringer for some in-your-face action. Hello, Tommy. What's going on there?
I can't believe it's already the end of the season, man. It flew by.
I know.
Hey,
wait.
But since we started, looks like you got a new addition in the garage, a Maverick HPX.
I do, man. I'm excited. You know, the guys at Maverick, they hooked me up. I love the boat,
Very
so
nice.
yeah, going forward the rest of the season.
Our remote studio is looking great.
Christmas in the fall, by God.
That's
I love it. Tell us what's happening.
Well, you know what? The yellowtail fishing here in the Strike Zone Northeast region, it's not really as good as some of the other regions. Maybe we mostly catch them as a bycatch. But I'll tell you what, when we do get them, they're really big, sometimes up to that 7, even 8 pound range. Now, what we do have going on right now is a really good vermilion snapper bite. I spoke with Captain Billy Hunsicker from Endless Summer Charters, and he tells me they easily have limited out on those beeliners pretty much all week. Now, he's fishing pretty deep in 160 to 170 foot range. He's using the usual chicken rigs with chunked Boston mackerel on a little 1/0 VMC circle hook. Captain Billy said those snapper, they're still spawning, or at least they're in pre-spawn, so they're probably going to be going off here all the way up to that full moon we have. Now, I also spoke to Captain Bo Hall from the Majesty and the Mayport Princess. He tells me the beeliners are also going strong east of Jacksonville. Now, Captain Bo said the water's pretty dirty inside of about 20 miles, but outside of that, the snapper bite has been great on the natural bottom reefs. Now, the vermilion, they're running anywhere from 2 to 5 pounds, and look for some bigger ones leading into the full moon. Now, also offshore, I spoke to our resident sailfish expert, Captain Jason Hadges from J-Hook Fishing Charters. He tells me the sailfish are starting to show up. And as we head into the fall, those sailfish, they're making their way back south, and Jason tells me that some of the best sailfish action, it's coming up, you know, October through December is probably the best in our region. Right now, Jason tells me there's a really good color change in about 145 to 160 foot out of St. Augustine. He's been catching some sails on the clean water side of that change, and he's also keeping a really good eye out for concentrations of bait. Now, he's dragging naked ballyhoo along with a couple teasers and some dredges. And Jason tells me it's only going to get better as things start to cool off a little bit. And I know we've got a little bit of a nor'easter going to happen this weekend, so that might start pretty soon. Now, I've got a picture here. This is Captain Jason's mate, Clay, and one of their clients with a nice St. Augustine sailfish they caught along that color change.
That is a nice, beautiful fish. Hey, Tommy, going forward, let's ask these guys to keep the fish in the water and get us one of those lean out shots. You know what I mean? It'll be better for the fish. I don't like the color of that guy, all right?
I know exactly what you mean, man. I think the guys are on board, so we'll bring that to you next season.
Thank you so much. Tell me about the redfish, bub.
You know what? Hey, I couldn't end the season without talking about my redfish, you know? We've had a great redfish bite this week. Earlier in the week, we had the flood tide thing happening, and that was a lot of fun, but now the focus is going to shift to that early morning outgoing tide we have this weekend. Even though the water's still really murky after the storm, the redfish, they're still chasing down topwater plugs at first light. We've been doing well with the redfish and the trout pattern Rapala skitterwalks. The flats and the edges of the ICW on the low tide have been holding some big schools of mullet, especially the ones closer to the inlets where the water is still a little saltier. The water's pretty fresh right now in areas like Palm Coast and Palm Valley, and the redfish, you know, they're still hanging out in those areas, but the saltier stuff seems to be a little better right now. The St. Augustine and Mayport inlets are also going to be holding good numbers of redfish on that low tide stage. Finger mullet and live shrimp on either a fish finder rig or a jig head, depending on the current, that's been the way to go for those inlet redfish. You're going to want to fish close to the rocks in about 10 to 20 feet of water. Now, it's been a fun mix of small slot and even a few oversized redfish this week. I got another photo here. This is David Mask with an orange, really should be an orange fish, but this is a nice orange redfish that he caught with me. You know, the tannic water we've got going on right now, it's made for some really pretty redfish.
That fish is getting ready for Halloween. It's a pumpkin.
It is, that's right.
Yeah.
Now also we have, you know, the flounder. They've really started to chew this week, especially in Jacksonville near Mayport. The docks, riprap, and pretty much any industrial structures in the St. Johns River, they've loaded up with some big flounder. I've spoke to a bunch of captains that have caught their limits pretty easily this week with some nice sized fish, including some in that 5+ pound range. Finger mullet rigged on a fish finder rig is going to be the go-to as always for those fish. The bite has been really good on any tide as long as that current isn't really ripping. You want it to be when it's slowing down a little bit. Fishing for the flounder, make sure you really fish the bottom slow right now. Like I said before, the water's really murky. Slowing it down is going to give those flatties a chance to hone in on your bait. And I've got one last picture here for the season. It's a good one. This is Jack Cole with his doormat flounder he caught with his dad Ryan this past weekend. Way to go, Jack. That's an awesome fish, man.
Tommy, I'm telling you, you definitely get the award for having the coolest pictures, the coolest kid shots. I love it. I'm going to send you the Princess Crown from Sportsman's Adventure headquarters.
Well, hey, you know what, guys? I got to thank everybody for sending me those photos. The captains did a great job. Thank you guys and the crew there. Man, I had a blast this season, so I'm looking forward to next season already.
All right, bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Northeast region. Inshore, flounder in St. John's near Mayport. Fish docks and riprap and any structure with finger mullets with the tide is moving slow. And then offshore, vermilion snapper in 145 to 160 foot depths on natural bottom out of St. Augustine, Bree.
Okay, Rick, we'll keep those rods in the water because the Central East region is quickly approaching. But first, let's check in with the CSA Workbench for some new products news with Dave Farrell.
Yeah, what are these cool things? Who knows?
Well,
you're going to find out in a little while. You're going to find out in a little while.
We'll be back.
I know.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Navionics, we start where the road ends. Soft Science, supreme comfort footwear. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Real legends, exclusively at Bell's. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder. Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 four-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Hey, how do you like your contender? How do I like my contender? What's not to like?
Dude, I just saw a contender, and man, I gotta get me one.
We're
Yes,
here
sir.
at the CCA workbench. And
Last one of the year.
You know what?
All my product flow is coming to a halt.
I heard there's some hookers in the house.
Yeah, oh, I wouldn't go that far. Anyway, these are the Hooker Electric high flow.
That's right.
Bait well pumps. We were talking about what they are, and they are bait well pumps, and they are coolest ones I've ever seen in my whole life. I mean, look at that. I mean, I've never seen a bait well pump that sexy.
So what
Very
makes
nice.
it so cool? Okay, how many gallons per hour?
Well, the little one is 2,500. This one is 4,500. They're variable speed, so you can adjust them, which is very important. You can run 4 or 5 live wells off just this one pump alone if you have one of these little manifolds or a sea chest. Actually, this thing will fit outside a sea chest, so it's very easy to access. It's self-cooling, brushless motor inside. It'll last forever. You can tell by just looking at it. It's made well, and it's not a disposable pump.
Paige
that's for
has
sure.
one in his 26 Pathfinder, and it's amazing. Sometimes step-bottom boats create air.
Yeah, they suck a lot of air.
Which then you get a vacuum. And one of the things I learned about these pumps, using them on the C1 fishing team, the contender we had, is that when we were running, we have twin steps in that boat, we were able to dial it down if our baits were going and rolling around in a circle.
You had a
or
tornado.
If we were getting low, we could dial it up.
Right.
And having that ability while you're running, not have to open or close any valves, it's awesome.
Awesome. All right.
What else you got?
Go to Hooker Electric and get you one of those. HookerElectric.com. All right, these are Starbright Snap and Zipper Lube. You can use this stuff to coat all your little metal pieces on your zippers. You know, you get a jacket, it's got all kinds of metal zippers. Some of the zippers aren't metal, they're plastic, just the zipper part, but a lot of the times the little doodad that slides up and down, I'm sure there's a name for it, but it's metal. And a lot of times that thing will get corroded, even if you have a plastic zipper. So it's always a good idea to have a good lubricant. And this is one of the best. It's non-toxic, non-staining. You know, it's a.
And they also use these on the snaps.
Yeah,
you know, like
snaps,
the snaps
like
that you get on your, when you put on your cushions
your
on your
isinglass,
Pathfinder.
correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you put this on there. And
Any place where two little pieces of metal are coming together, any hinges, hatches, anything like that, that the snap and zipper lubricant will work for you. Just don't worry about the snap and zipper. It'll work on just about anything.
And also, it's really good with as far as the temperature variation.
Yep. Minus
Real cold,
minus 65 to
up
plus
to 650.
Yeah, so you can burn it up.
All right.
You'll be burning up
now,
for sure.
Yeti, you know what? They've got some cool stuff, Dave. Bucket, a new bucket. Are you kidding?
It's the load-out 5-gallon bucket.
It's the bomb diggity bucket.
Well, you know, it's the king of all buckets, I'm sure. It's, you know, it's got this thing is not going to break, this webbing.
Carrying strap.
Carrying strap. It's got a 360. Goes
What are
all
the
the way
slits
around.
in the side for?
You can either put a knife in there, or it comes with a thing that you can put all the way around it with tools, a tool kit. That
You mean we can accessorize a bucket?
It even has a little seat to put on the top, you know, if you want to sit on it. This is probably the
Non-skid.
best thing, the non-skid on the bottom. You know, you always have a bucket in the back. It's sliding around everywhere. This one's going to stay where you put it.
All right,
so
Yeti.
Get that
Now,
load-out bucket.
Tell me about the new bags, Dave.
Well,
This
these
is
are the
big one.
Yeti Pangas. These are submersible, waterproof. It's got a waterproof zipper. You can actually use it, put it on your backpack. You can use it as a backpack.
Oh, I can backpack
Yep,
this?
you could backpack it. They come in 3 different sizes. So, and it's and it's perfectly waterproof,
Tighten
which
up.
you know is very rare these days. So it's good to have something that's completely waterproof. All your stuff will stay dry. It's got these quick grab lanyards if you don't want to do what you're doing there, because that looks kind of goofy. But I would grab the straps and carry it, because you look like you're going to go up the mountain or
See,
something.
you said this is what happens when you call me goofy.
Yeah,
Dave.
that's right. I know it.
Right here. This is what you get.
I got you. All right, Bennett Auto Supply. You know, we have a little product every week. Want you to get out to Bennett and get some of their stuff. This is a heavy-duty corrosion inhibitor. You spray that stuff on anything, it resists salt and even humidity. Just a good protectorant. So if you want to get out and get some good, good stuff to keep your metal from deteriorating, get the heavy-duty corrosion inhibitor.
And you know, the one thing that's so cool about Bennett, again,
CRC.
we say this every week, is the stuff that they have that's marine driven.
Yeah.
They have marine batteries, they've got bearing grease.
It says Bennett Auto Supply, but they got everything.
They got everything you
Yes,
could
they do.
possibly need. Good job, Bennett. All right, Dave, you've done a great job this season over here. And Bree, where are we going next?
I still can't get past the bomb diggity bucket thing. That was good, Rick. All right, now let's check in with Captain Jim Ross, who has lots of options for you fine anglers this weekend. Hey, Jim.
Hey, congratulations, Miss Bree Del Santo.
Well, thank you very much.
You are welcome very
Married
much.
woman.
Congratulations. I know, off the market, but I tell you what, you broke a lot of hearts out there, but that's okay. We're going to make them happy again with the Central East Report this week.
There
we
you
don't
go.
have a lot of yellowtails, so we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about yellowtails with green fins and blue dots, because that's what we're getting in our region this week. Dolphin have showed up this week, and the larger charter boats that have been able to get out in these big swells are finding trees, barrels, pallets, all kinds of hurricane debris that's starting to flow up our way. As probably all up and down the East Coast, you're going to get the reports of this. Now, good thing about this is this stuff holds fish. Bad thing, it can damage a prop, put a hole in your boat. Be careful running offshore. Get out to that clean water edge. Find the flotsam that's in a rip, a weed line, a color change, whatever it happens to be. Troll your baits around it. You know, whenever you get some fish off of the troll and they slow down, you can always pull up to some of that debris, throw some chunks overboard or some liveys overboard. Most of our dolphin are running 5 to 10 pounds, but some of them are running up into that 20-pound range. The other species, inshore, all the water's dirty, so there's a lot of sharks right now. And, you know, down to the south out of Sebastian, 150 foot is about where the clean water starts. Up at Ponce, it's more like 200 feet. So basically, anywhere inside of there that's your fishing structure, you're going to find sharks. So bonita, ladyfish, bluefish, and pogies, all great baits to use because they're nice and oily and the fish can smell them from a long way off. We've got sandbars, bulls, sharp nose, black nose, spinners, black tips. I mean, any variety of shark that you can imagine is out there. Most of them are running 10 to 15 pounds. on the smaller side. The larger ones can run up to 200 or 300 pounds with some of those sandbars. Now, coming inshore, the snook bite right now is still very strong all along the beaches and at the jetties. They're firing off after these hurricanes, especially right after Hurricane Irma came by. But also with these swells from Marie and Lee, those hurricanes are creating those swells. It's pushing the bait against the jetties, and the snook are blowing up on them, turning cartwheels through them, all kinds of really fun stuff. You want to go out there and throw live bait. Mullet and croakers are your two best bets right now. If you can find some big pigfish, they will work as well on a bottom rig. For lure casters, the Rapala X-Rap, the new long cast X-Rap, or the new long cast shallow, all very, very good baits to throw. The size 12 and 14 seem to be the best right now, and you want to try the new mullet finish because it's been really, really good. That new color has been really good for catching those fish. Saltwater assassin dye dappers are also working really good. Put them on a 3/4 to 1.5 ounce jig head and fish those right there in those mullet pods as well. The snook on the beach are running 28 to 38 inches, but don't be surprised, we've got fish in the 40-inch range. And I've got a picture here of John Dinghoff, and recently he caught some nice snook out of Canaveral, and you can see one of those fish right here. Now, redfish. The water was flowing out of the creeks. It was really high. The redfish were holding tight to those shorelines and holding tight to those outflows. This week it's changed a little bit. The outflows are not nearly as productive as they were, but the water's still fairly high. So continue to work those mangrove areas, pitching back up under them or back up under docks. The Mosquito Lagoon, if you're out there, there's not a lot of overhanging mangroves, so just get as close to the bank as you can. The saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shads are working really well. Put them on one of those assassin weedless weighted worm hooks. Spoons are working really well, especially when you're out fishing the mullet pods that are roaming the flats. Those gold weedless spoons are great search bait. You can catch a lot of redfish on them right now. Now, most of our reds are running 22 to 30 inches at this time. We've got a lot of fish that are smaller, though. We've got a bunch of fish that have come into the 16 to 21-inch range that are showing up as well, especially down Sebastian around Campbell's Pocket and Long Point. You know what? It's been a great year. I can't wait to do this all again next year, but I just want to say a big thank you to Bree, Dave, the whole crew, and, of course, Rick for putting this thing on. And I'll tell you what, next year's going to be even bigger and better than this year, and we can't wait for you viewers to come back and check us out again.
All right,
Jim,
thank you so much,
you.
Jim. We love you, man. All right, we'll talk to you soon. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the sea sucker hotspots from the Central East region inshore. Hit the inlets for snook, use live mullet or lures that imitate them, and then offshore. Potluck anglers will need to run to the clean water edge and then work floating debris for dolphin, tunas, and wahoos. Bree?
He's always so positive and happy.
Yeah.
I just love it.
He
All right,
is.
we've got the Panhandle and Southwest regions coming right up on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, so stay hooked, and we'll be back in a few.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. Startron cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Yeti, built for the wild. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Strike Zone Fishing, your fish hunt paddle store. And Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist.
Hi guys, it's great to be here. In the desert, at the mall, on the mountain, at school, at the beach, in the Big Easy. Yeah. Today I want to show you guys the next gen Chevy Equinox. What do you think?
That's pretty.
Pretty sexy.
It's all-wheel drive. Look at that. It looks aggressive.
But not overbearing.
It's not too big, not too small.
Looks like it could go off-roading.
At the same time, it looks like a car you could take to a nice event.
You can dress it up or dress it down.
Seems like the perfect car for anybody. I would take it anywhere.
I want one.
I love it.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Chevy stepped their game up.
Flagler Construction Equipment is your certified Takeuchi equipment dealer, servicing 55 counties in Florida. With Takeuchi, you get brute strength combined with bulletproof durability. That means low downtime and optimal production. Flagler Construction Equipment is the partner for all your Takeuchi sales, service, and rental needs, and your first and last stop for legendary customer service and support. Pros know Takeuchi. Get to know Flagler Construction Equipment by stopping by one of our 6 locations or visit us on the web at www.flaglertakeuchi.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Our friends at Maverick Boat Group have teamed up with Yamaha, PowerPole, and Ameritrail trailers to auction off this Pathfinder 2200 TRS with 100% of the sales proceeds going to help those in the fishing community most impacted by Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. The online auction is now live at www.mbg4relief.com and will run through 5 p.m. next Wednesday, October 4th. You can also head to our website at cfifr.com for more information, but I think that's pretty cool that they're doing that.
Absolutely, it
We're
sure
gonna have our
is.
boat go bye-bye.
You know what would have been cooler if one of our camera guys would have got a picture of the boat.
That's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay. They see us on it every week.
Exactly.
They know what it looks like. It's beautiful. All right, we're welcoming you back with the Yeti Panhandle region and Pat Deneen, who is your captain. So let's captain.
Hey, Bree, we don't have yellowtail snappers up here to speak of, but what we do have right now is plenty of king mackerels, and they continue to bite well in the Gulf nearshore waters. Pretty much anywhere you find bait and structure, chances are there are kings and big Spanish around. And I like to use a wire stinger rig tied to a section of 50-pound fluorocarbon rather than having a stinger rig going to a wire leader. You're going to get a lot more bites that way. Occasionally you get cut off, but you're definitely going to get more bites. As usual, a live bait's best, preferably a herring or a cigar minnow. Slow troll or drift the baits, some on top, some deep off a downrigger or lead. Most of the kings are schoolies, but there are some bonus fish around. Decent-sized dolphin are showing up inshore, blackfin tunas, and a few sailfish. In fact, my nephew, Halen Filson, he caught 2 sailfish this past week off the Oklahoma Pier, so the sailfish are definitely out there. And then speaking of sailfish, fall is the time of year when the smaller boats are getting into some good big game fishing action. Right now, 30 to 50 miles out, the water's starting to clean up. Blue water species are being caught. The area around the elbow, the nipple, the 131 hole is starting to hold a lot of bait, and the blue marlins, the white marlins, the sailfish, and other pelagics are showing up for the feed. The Dana Ann out of Destin had a grand slam in that area earlier this week. Additionally, the whale sharks are showing up, and when you find the whale sharks, you're going to find yellowfin tunas and blackfin tunas feeding around them. So watch your sounder for midwater bait schools and keep an eye out on the surface for birds and surface action. Troll a mixed spread to maximize your chances because you really don't know if your next bite's going to come from a blackfin tuna of 20 pounds or a 400-pound blue marlin. And there's a photo of Jack Lewis, my mate, and Steve Smith, and that's a big Gulf of Mexico sailfish we caught last week on a live mullet.
Looking good, dude. What else you got for us offshore?
Rick, right now, inshore, Rick,
Inshore.
right now you need to get up here because the redfish bite is on fire. Anglers at the Destin Jetties and Bridge have been catching redfish for the past couple weeks. The smaller slot fish have been coming from the jetties, while the bigger bull redfish are at the bridge. The moving tide is key, with the outgoing tide being the best. Use live baits, particularly croakers, spot minnows, and filters on the bottom with the Carolina rig. Additionally, big schools of redfish are starting to show up in the deeper sections of the bay. The Mid-Bay Bridge holds a lot of bait this time of year, and usually there are several schools of redfish somewhere along that span. Use your sounder to locate the fish schools, and then use jigs or live baits to catch them. And then keep some binoculars handy because on calm days, throughout the day in that deeper section, the redfish are pushing baits up to the surface, and you can find them feeding under the birds. So that's been pretty decent. But if you just want to go catch a lot of fish, the Spanish mackerel, bluefish, ladyfish mixed bag is going off right now. I spoke with Captain Sean Chalker over at Indian Pass. He says the beaches outside of Apalachicola Bay, basically along St. George Island, St. Vincent Island, are loaded up with fish right now. Similar actions going on throughout the Panhandle. We fished this past week between Fort Walton Beach and Navarre. Caught big bluefish, slot redfish, Spanish, ladyfish, basically a mixed bag. No bait required. Cast jigs, spoons, topwaters on light to medium spinning tackle. Use a 40-pound bite tippet to minimize your cutoffs. If you want to just eliminate the cutoffs, use a trace of wire. And also don't be surprised to see some black tips and some big bull redfish as well.
All right, Pat, thank you so much. Great report from the Yeti Panhandle region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots. Inshore, Destin Bridge on the outgoing tide for the big redfish he talked about, using croakers on the bottom. And then offshore, the nipple, the elbow, and the 131 hole for billfish, and offshore pelagics trolling ballyhoos and plastics. Bree.
All right, the Bell's Southwest region is fired up and ready to go. So Captain Ronnie Houston, tell us how the bite is looking.
Well, I can tell you what, it's great to be back. It's been a couple weeks since Irma, and all I can tell you is the fishing has been exceptional. We're talking about the yellowtails. They can be found anywhere from 50 to 240 feet, concentrating on wrecks, bigger ledges, and towers. Now, chumming the fish to the surface is the best way to catch them. Now, once they're behind the boat, to the chum, you can use live shrimp, chunks of herring, or squid. But there are a lot of blue runners that seem to get up in these slicks. Don't hesitate to catch a few of these blue runners. Put out some chunks or some small strips of blue runners to catch these yellowtails. Now, tackle is always light spinning with about 5 feet of 20-pound fluorocarbon, a 2.0 VMC circle hook, and the most important thing to catch these fish is to float the bait in the chum slick, not above it or not below it. Make sure you float it. And I've got a picture of a variety of fish to include some yellowtails, mangrove snappers, red groupers, and yellowtails. Guys, all these fish with the great weather have been caught in the last day, and it's been going on like that. Now, still on the offshore side, the permits. Dump past the Fort Myers Beach in depths of 40 to 55 feet of water, fishing wrecks by either just anchoring up or drifting across. Now, I can tell you, fish has been good, and these fish have been schooled up. Once you find them, for some reason, they will eat just about anything, not just a live crab, which is generally the favorite bait. Guys are throwing yellow or orange bucktails tipped with shrimp. Also, a variety of 3 to 4 inch soft plastics on a jig head. And I got a prime example of a fish that was just caught by Bob Bixler, offshore, catching permit. Like I say, these fish are schooled up and they're eating. Now, the inshore side, all I can say is the bite is great for the snook all through the region. Once you find them, you'll catch anywhere from 50 to 100 fish on some days. But concentrate your efforts right now down south from Goodland to Everglades City, strictly fishing the outside points. And tide really hasn't made a difference, but I would suggest fishing the lower stages of the tide to start making note of all the new debris that are in the water. Now, one thing is there will be new staging areas, but also to see what you're going to have to avoid in the near future. Once the tide gets too high, it's tough to see them, so there's no hurry. Study that structure. Best baits truly have been not live bait, just artificial. Top water plugs of white or bone chartreuse, gold spoons, 3 to 4 inch soft plastic bass assassin sea shads, and root beer and golden brim. And as you can see, there have been a variety of pictures being shown in this report. All these fish have been caught in the last couple days since Irma. There's a beautiful lady by the name of Christina Stoneburner, Joey McGinnis, myself, and a couple other people. The snook bite's on. Now also the redfish. Bite has been good up in the northern end on the higher stages of the tide in the Matlacha area from Two Pines to the Indian Field and all the way to the power lines in the intercoastal. Concentrate on independent islands, points recurrent, and mangrove shorelines. Higher stages tied up under the bushes, lower stages troughs and potholes, cup mullet, ladyfish and shrimp with gold spoons, 3 to 4 inch soft plastic shrimp, and paddle tails are a good alternative. And I got another picture of a redfish by Adam Michelson. Weather's going to be great all week. It's going to be great for the weekend. Get out, take a break, release the stress, and catch some fish.
So, Ronnie, let me ask you a question. You know, obviously you guys were pretty affected, your region, and dead in the middle of it. What about the boat ramp situation? Are they becoming more accessible? How are we doing over there?
Well, you know, most boat ramps have become really accessible. It's been a little tough down in the Everglades City, Chicxulub area. You can make your way in there, and there are a few ramps. But what I've been doing myself is running south. I've been putting in at Marco, running down towards Lossman, only because I like to run a lot at night. And I'm trying to find all the new debris that's out there during the day, marking the stuff, figuring out. So when I run a trip at night, I don't have to worry about running into anything. So the ramps further from Goodland all the way to the north are readily accessible for you guys to get out and do some fishing.
I know Flagler Construction Equipment has sent you a loader. How's that working? You getting everything cleaned up?
I'll tell you one thing. This guy's a new sponsor, and I'll tell you what. With the way things have been going on, I made a phone call, and he got something from Miami to me right away, and it's doing the job. So thanks to those guys at Flagler. I'm getting cleaned up at my house.
All right, bud. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the southwest hotspots from Ronnie's Bells region. Inshore, juvenile tarpon early in the morning, late in the afternoon until dark, fishing the Peace River off of I-75. And then offshore, red groupers, Goodland to Wiggins Pass, 55 to 65 feet of water. Fish the hard bottom using cut bait, Bree.
Is that why you call him Midnight Rider? Because
Yeah,
he likes to ride at night?
That's him.
That's
The
him. That's
Midnight
his
Rider.
nickname. Now I know what. Okay, we've got one more region to tickle your tackle fancy, and that is the Northwest region. So everyone sit tight, and we'll be back with your report. Oh man.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Suffix. The world's most hardcore fishing line. The IGFA. Conservation through education. Get your hands wet. Flagler Construction Equipment, your exclusive Takeuchi dealer. And Okuma, inspired fishing. When you're moving a big offshore boat, it's all about thrust and trust. For thrust, nothing compares to the Yamaha purpose-built 5.3-liter V8 Power Pioneer. And for trust, Yamaha's new F350C model becomes the only outboard in its horsepower class to feature a 5-year limited warranty. Never settle for less than complete confidence and control in the open water. That's Yamaha V8 Power. Get the best and forget the rest.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore. Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
You each drive a Ford pickup, right?
Yes, sir. I have a Ford F-150. Always been a Ford guy.
I have a real treat for you today.
Awesome.
I'm going to show you a next generation pickup.
Let's do this.
This new truck now has a corner step built right into the bumper.
Super cool.
The bed is made of high-strength steel, which is less susceptible to punctures than aluminum.
Aluminum's great for a lot of things, but maybe not the bed of a truck.
And best of all, this new truck is actually
Oh my.
the current Chevy Silverado.
I'm speechless. This puts my Ford truck to shame. I tell you, I might be a Chevy guy now.
Yeah.
Today's Power Pole tip, guys, is about showing your boat a little love. Now, trailering your boat certainly can be really tough on the boat. It's vibrating, the roads always seem to be under construction, and it vibrates the heck out of the boat. So take a screwdriver and tighten up all the hatches and all the screws on your console, and that will go a long way. Well, the same thing applies for your Yamaha as well as your power pole. Now, some of the key places that you want to focus in on using a 1/2 inch open end socket as well as a ratchet, we want to make sure we tighten up any of these brass parts. They have a nylon washer and lock nuts. Any place where these bolt, we want to make sure we tighten up all of these, checking them from time to time. Quite often when I'm running across the bay and I look back at my power pole, what I'm looking for is to see if there's any sway in the power pole when it's in the up position. If there is, it might be time to do a little tightening, a little love, a little maintenance. The other thing that you can do if you're using a transom bracket is use a 9/16 socket. The transom brackets have been made so that you can actually tilt the power poles in order to compensate for the angle of the transom. So keep that in mind. These are some things that'll actually make your power pole last a lot longer, and you won't have to replace these bushings. And that's today's power pole tip. So Bree, I want to remind everybody that the rigs and techniques, the new products, the power pole tips, all of those things are on our website. So during the off season, guys, you can go and visit those things and watch them over and over and use those tricks, use the tips that we use with power pole, and guess what? Use them throughout the year.
Yep, you won't have to miss us. We're
That's
right on the internet,
There
on
we
the
go.
interweb. All right, if you want Yellowtail and the Flagler Construction Equipment Northwest region, Captain Jeff Hagman is going to give it to you. Let's hear it, Jeff.
We actually have some really good yellowtail fishing in our region, and not a lot of people do it. The southern part of our region holds some really good yellowtail fishing. Most of the fish right now are found in depths anywhere from 60 to 120 feet of water. Major relief structures like wrecks, our pipeline connections, which is kind of unique to our region, or hard bottom. All the techniques that really work down south part of Florida really work well here. Anchoring up tide of the structure or hard bottom, chumming with a chum bag, rolled oats and that dry chum mix works really good mixed together, or just cut sardines, or a mixture of all these. Can help bring them right up off the bottom and get them higher in that water column, which makes them easier to catch. And it also makes them a little easier way to get away from the predators that we have up here, the Goliath grouper, the barracudas, and the sharks that love to eat them too. Our fish average a little bit bigger than in the south. Their fish average anywhere from 1.5 to 3 pounds. We get some fish up to 4.5, 5 pounds pretty frequently. So 10 to 12 pound, even 15 pound test mono. The smallest hook you can get away with, and a tipped piece of shrimp or a cut sardine works well free lined into the tide. So most of those techniques, like they got down the Keys, they all work up here. Finding them and getting on them is pretty easy. We don't get those huge masses of them, but we'll get 20 or 30 or 40 fish come up at a time and get in a tight little ball like they do down the Keys. You don't get those 100 schools, 100 groups of fish.
What else you got for us offshore, bub?
Triple tail, Captain Mario Costello out of the Plantation Inn out of Crystal River reports a really good triple tail bite right now. All that weather we've had and the big storm, we got big grass mats everywhere. So 10 to 12, 25 feet of water. He's been approaching them on the trolling motor after spotting them when he's running by from spot to spot. He's throwing a free line shrimp with a 3/0 circle hook just past the fish and working it back to him really slow. Most of the fish have been difficult to spot, so a good pair of some polarized sunglasses is a must to target these fish. The triple tail has been anywhere right now from 15 to 20 inches, and I've got a photo of Captain Mario with a catch this week.
Yeah, man. The blackfish. Wow.
Yes.
All right.
Me too.
Tell me about the redfish, Buck.
Captain Jimbo Keith, Saltwater Assassin Fishing Charters out of Cedar Key, reports inshore redfish have still been biting pretty good and will be getting better as the tide gets better with the movement of the tide. Cut mullet fished on the bottom around oyster bars seems to be working well. And also gold spoons and skitter walks for you guys that like to throw lures first thing in the morning, also been good. Jimbo also says the trout bite in that same area just outside of it has been pretty good in that 3 feet of water, 3 to 5 feet of water over the grass flats. On the incoming tide seems to be the best action. And Jimbo sent me in a proud young lady angler photo with a nice red fish caught in his region.
Nice fish. All right, what else, Hag? One more species.
I do. Snook. Going back to Captain Mario Costello, he's always good to us, and I want to get his reports in there. Good snook bite right now around the oyster bars, rocky shorelines, in Yankeetown. They can be caught on any part of the tide, but that last hour of the outgoing tide seems to be best, he says. He's using a mirror lure, Little John, in the golden brim color, 1/8 ounce jig head. Most of the snooks right now are ranging anywhere from 24 to 32 inches. Moving a little further south, Captain Jamie Goodwin at GoFloridaFishing.com reports his snook bite has been really good on that outgoing tide. He's fishing the potholes, mangrove shorelines, and points. Live sardines has been the key. He's also chumming pretty heavily to get the bite going and get him fired up. And he's freelining with a sardine belly hooked with a 3 to 4/0 circle hook and anywhere from 25 to 30 pound fluorocarbon liter.
So, Hag, you did a great job this year for the Flagler Construction Equipment region. And I got a question for you. You know, when it comes to getting all your reports this year, you really expanded and you covered the region real well. What was the difference?
I had a lot more guys step up, and I got a lot more reports from a lot of different captains. And I'd really like to thank them a bunch for emailing me once a week and taking the time out of their busy schedules of fishing to get me some new reports. I'd like to thank all of them.
Well, you did a really good job. You have the biggest region, and obviously that's the biggest challenge, and I just want to thank you for all the extra effort. We're going to go ahead and get to the hot spots from the Northwest region. Our man says, inshore, redfish on the top of the tide, cut ladyfish, live sardines, pinfish have been working very well, and then offshore, gag groupers. The bite has been consistent in 75 to 120 feet of water over rock piles and ledges. Use pinfish on a standard bottom rig.
Rick,
Yes, ma'am.
that was our last report.
Only for 217.
True.
But
Of
we're
this
working on 218 starting.
We are, and it's going to be
Monday.
amazing and bigger and better. I want everyone to stay right where they are so we can tell you what we've got coming up for the off season, because in Florida, the fishing never stops. Right, Rick?
That's exactly right.
That's right. We'll be right back on the Chevy Florida Insider
Insider
Fishing
Fishing
Report.
Report.
Teamwork.
Hi guys, it's great to be here. In the desert, at the mall, on the mountain, at school, at the beach, in the Big Easy. Yeah. Today I want to show you guys the next gen Chevy Equinox. What do you think?
That's pretty.
Pretty sexy.
It's all-wheel drive. Look at that.
It looks aggressive.
But not overbearing.
It's not too big, not too small.
Looks like it could go off-roading. But at the same time, it looks like a car you could take to a nice event.
You can dress it up or dress it down.
Seems like the perfect car for anybody.
I would take it anywhere.
I want one.
I love it.
She's a bad mamma jamma.
Chevy stepped their game up.
The ultimate predator has evolved again. Now, Yamaha VMAX SHO Performance is prowling the waters in 4 hungry, exciting new models. With their 4 valves per cylinder and double overhead cam fuel-injected design, these advanced 4-stroke predators are taking performance to a whole new level. Vicious, lean, efficient. VMAX SHO. The pack is growing.
When you're paid to put fish in the boat, you don't mess around with the thing that puts fish in the boat. Always use the best line.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes, special segments, and updated fishing reports from your region right on our homepage. Just head to ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. All right, now even though this is our last show of the season, we will be back on the air in April of 2018, and you can keep up with all of us through social media, and our captains do live audio reports, so you can keep up with the fishing. But we want to thank everyone for being a part of our season. We love you all. We'll see you next year.
Bye.
Bye.